Partisans helped the Ukrainian Defense Forces destroy a repair and restoration base of the Russian occupiers. The strike on the enemy facility was carried out when a large amount of equipment was at the base for repair and maintenance. The enemy's coordinates were provided by agents from the 205th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces. The military movement of Ukrainians and Crimean Tatars, Atesh, reported this. Agents who infiltrated the enemy unit gave the exact coordinates of the occupiers' repair and restoration base. The strike was carried out by the Ukrainian Defense Forces at the most opportune moment when a large number of equipment for repair and maintenance was located at the facility. As a result of the attack, the repair base was completely destroyed along with military equipment and valuable equipment. The destruction of this node critically disrupted the ability of the occupiers to restore damaged equipment and return it to the front in the Kherson direction. Atesh agents are confident that the destruction of the base will lead to a sharp drop in the enemy's combat capability and a decrease in the number of armored vehicles on this section of the front. Atesh once again demonstrates our agent network operates in all enemy units, transmitting data that saves lives and brings liberation closer. The statement says, as a reminder, Russian troops attack Kherson with strike drones. Recently, the Russian army, the enemy, hit a high-rise building in the Dnipro district of the city. A fire broke out there and 2 people were injured. Another Kherson resident in the same district was attacked by Russians with a drone early in the morning. Recall, anyone approaching Kherson is immediately made aware of the threat from above. The entrance to the city is marked by signs reading, "Warning, danger, enemy drones." Meanwhile, major roads leading into the heart of Kherson and the Dnipro River are covered by improvised netting in a bid to offer some basic protection against the ever-present threat of Russian drones. For local residents, Russia's human safari has made sudden death from above an everyday fact of life. During the first 9 months of 2025, more than 100 people were killed and over 1,000 were wounded in drone attacks. Those who remain say they feel hunted whenever they dare to leave their homes and venture out into the open air. The Russian propaganda is actively spreading false information that a landing has occurred on the quarantine island in Kherson. This was reported by the spokesman of the 30th Marine Corps of the Naval Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Colonel Alexander Svatonov. According to him, enemy forces attempted to capture the island 4 times, but all attempts were unsuccessful. Ukrainian forces repelled the attacks, preventing the enemy from breaking through the front line, despite the spread of disinformation. Russian sources began to spread false claims about allegedly landing troops on the quarantine island in the Koral neighborhood of Kherson. This throw has nothing to do with reality, Svatonov categorically denied. But on the 22nd of October, Russian state propaganda agencies cited the Russian Defense Ministry in reports that Russian troops had achieved successes on Quarantini Island, which is part of the city of Kherson. The reports claimed that Russian forces had successfully landed on the island, taken control of key facilities, and repelled all counterattacks by the armed forces of Ukraine. Later, all the reports were deleted due to the withdrawal of information by the Russian Ministry of Defense. Defense forces of Ukraine's south stated that the Russians are spreading fake claims about the capture of Kherson and the alleged presence of Russian infantry on the right bank of the Dnipro River. In reality, calm prevails in the area of Quarantini Island and the village of Sadov, and there are no enemy forces there. The statement said, according to the Colonel Alexander Svatonov, Russian troops used adverse weather conditions to attempt the assault. However, their main goal was to create information noise rather than achieve results on the battlefield. During clashes, Ukrainian defenders destroyed 9 enemies and artillery systems that shelled Kherson and its outskirts. The Ukrainian military continues to resist provocations from Russian propaganda, demonstrating their readiness and effectiveness in defending the territorial integrity of the state. This situation emphasizes the importance of information security amid war. The armed forces of Ukraine remain vigilant and respond adequately to attempts at disinformation, which in turn helps to maintain the morale of Ukrainians and uphold trust in military efforts. It is important for the population to be aware of the real state of affairs and not to fall for enemy manipulations. So the operation on Quarantine Island continues, and the situation remains tense as both sides regularly exchange attacks. According to sources, the cleanup is proceeding gradually, and the area is being fortified. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin publicly embarrassed himself while answering questions from Russian propaganda about the EU's 19th round of sanctions against Russia. One of the propagandists asked Putin to comment on the new restrictions, specifically noting that the new package contains a clause banning the supply of plastic toilets, bidets, and other plumbing fixtures to Russia. The dictator got it all mixed up, thinking that the EU had also refused to purchase Russian plumbing fixtures and decided to make a joke about it. The cancellation of our toilet purchases will cost them dearly. I think they would have needed them in the current situation, the head of the Kremlin regime said. Thus, in his joke, Putin attempted to appear menacing by threatening aggression against Europe, but was ultimately ridiculed. His mistake is already being actively discussed online, highlighting the dictator's complete ignorance and detachment from real events. It should be noted that as part of the new sanctions package against Moscow, the EU also banned the import of motorized toys and plastic toys to Russia, including cars, dolls, strollers, and tricycles. Furthermore, the new sanctions include restrictions on Russian LNG, shadow fleet vessels, and a number of companies. The sanctions are the Kremlin's response to Russia's ongoing military aggression against Ukraine. Media previously reported how Putin acknowledged the seriousness of the new US and EU sanctions, stating that they would inflict certain losses on Russia. The head of the Russian regime addressed Kremlin propagandists, claiming that the West's new restrictions would not have a significant impact on the economy, but at the same time adding, there will be certain losses. According to him, the global energy balance has now been established, and disrupting it is not in the interests of the countries that are trying to do so. The dictator saw many areas for cooperation between Moscow and Washington if the countries move toward a serious dialogue for the future. Touching on the topic of a potential summit with Trump in Budapest, Putin stated that such a meeting had likely been postponed. He said it would be a mistake to hold such a meeting without preparation. The dictator also asserted that dialogue is better than continuing the war. Moreover, the head of the aggressor country threatened a serious response to long-range weapon strikes deep into Russian territory. Recall Washington imposed sanctions against Rosneft and Lukoil. These are the first US sanctions against Russia imposed since Trump's return to the Oval Office.